Back in January, I received a certain comment about Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms, the worst Mortal Kombat movie hands down. I've explained why I dislike it before, and this commenter agreed on at least one thing. The ending is a mess. The comment said something to the effect of, I just watched the tournament part and then turn it off. And this got me thinking, could that work? Could one re-edit this movie to get rid of the atrocious ending and make a better adaptation of MK2 that doesn't have to share a scant hour and 20-minute runtime with extraneous nonsense and out-of-place adaptations? So I did that. I recut the movie to see how it would turn out. This video is not that re-edit because that would be more than a little illegal, so I'm instead going to walk you through the edits I made to explain why I made each change and how they affect the movie. First off, the ending. As stated, the whole One Being fiasco is a big mess that overshadows the main conflict of the film right at the end. It's not good. So, cutting that and having the film end with Shao Kahn's defeat is an easy enough decision to make, but it has one major knock-on effect. The film's B-plot no longer has a conclusion. The B-plot follows Scorpion being hunted by Kuai Liang to avenge Bi-Han's death in the previous film, as well as the cyber Lin Kuei trying to access the Earthrealm Kamidogu. This culminates in the revival of the One Being, with the heroes of both plotlines uniting to defeat it. With the film now ending with the Liu Kang vs Shao fight, the B-plot now abruptly ends with the Grandmaster's death with no sort of resolution. So I removed the entire thing. Every second of screen time for Scorpion or the Lin Kuei is gone, save for one bit that I'll explain later. For now, all you need to know is that the final runtime for this edit is 46 minutes and 53 seconds. That's 37 minutes removed. I did consider editing those scenes together to make a companion piece or hypothetical third film set alongside the second, but there really isn't enough material for that, so that is only implied to be what comes next. So the film proceeds normally until Raiden and Shao depart to meet with the Elder Gods. Instead of cutting to Scorpion's nightmare and Shinnok's attempt to recruit him, we instead cut right to the meeting. Then, when Raiden returns to gather his fighters, Scorpion's appearance is removed, cutting right from Johnny telling Stryker to follow to their arrival in Outworld.
Come on, Toto. We don't have all day.
Now, here's an interesting edit. I noticed a continuity error in the film while editing. After Jax defeats Kintaro, Shao says the first day is over and instructs his guards to lead the Earthrealmers to their quarters for the evening. We cut to the Scorpion vs Sub-Zero vs Cyborgs fight on the docks, then cut to Raiden fighting Reiko. Then the temple entrance scene occurs, and then the Earthrealmers are taken to their quarters for what is definitely the first time, so this isn't the end of a day 2 we only saw one fight from. I suspect a scene was removed somewhat late in production, and so they haphazardly moved the longest day 1 fight to this gap between B-plot scenes without moving Shao's declaration along with it. In my edit, the Reiko fight now occurs between the Li Mei and Kintaro fights. It couldn't go after Kintaro because Raiden and Liu Kang are up in the stands when Shao sends them off, nor can it move to day 2 because Liu Kang talks to Raiden about it in the night scene. So we place it in the middle of day 1 and let the distance between Raiden and the camera here mask his lack of wounds. Fortunately, he is sitting and hunched over as if recovering from a fight, so it works.
Lord Raiden.
I am fine. Let's see if these metal arms rip as easily as flesh.
Ooh, wow, look at that. Someone's a little testy.
Must mean we're winning.
We then drop the Kamidogu chamber scene and cut right to day 2. I forget the exact reason I used an establishing shot of the Colosseum from later in the film in place of the actual shot. I'll theorise later. Day 2 proceeds as normal. We cut the brief return to the B-plot and have Kung Lao's fight with Shao occur right after Stryker's death and Shang's taunt.
You're next.
Removing the Shinnok scene from after Shang's defeat was one of the trickier edits. This is where the establishing shot I repurposed originates. Having one of those in the middle of what is now one continuous scene would make no sense, so it's gone. But I also can't just have Raiden be talking with his fighters, then be suddenly facing away in the next shot without any movement to suggest he turned. So I removed Raiden saying,
We win. At all costs.
Since that shot has him surrounded by his fighters. Instead, I extended the previous shot to have Liu Kang speak while we view the back of his head, and then proceed as normal from there.
Our second greatest fighter is sidelined. What now?
We fight.
Lord Raiden, don't.
Do not fear for me.
This is what I am meant to do.
It works pretty well if you can ignore the shift in Raiden's position in the space. The next edit isn't quite as smooth. The establishing shot I removed earlier is now used to quiet the audience from the post-Shao jubilation to the post-finale calm. I think I used this shot because random dragons flying overhead would distract from Shao's defeat, and a sky clear of winged monsters helps to convey the victory, contrasting with the earlier mid-tournament establishing shot. I zoomed in on this shot a little to hide Sub-Zero's presence since it makes no sense for him to be here without the climax. I removed Liu Kang and Kitana's kiss since it's initiated while she stood up when she was just being carried by him, so now he just puts her down off screen while we focus on Johnny.
It's over.
You did it.
We did it.
Now is it over?
I also cut Liu Kang's line about Idenia being free since the action that caused that no longer occurs. Again, I zoomed to cut Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Yes. The realms have been separated. No more tournaments, no more gods. Just peace as it should be.
Then I edited Jax's line because Shao can't have escaped in the second since his defeat like he did in the several minutes since in the original cut.
Yeah, I've heard that before, but Shao Kahn's body's gone. What happens when he or someone else gets the itch to take over Earthrealm again? Yeah, I've heard that before. Shao Kahn's gone. What happens when someone else gets the itch to take over Earthrealm again?
My most extreme zoom comes next, once again removing the ninjas, but having to also cut the conspicuous empty space on the other side as well to look like a natural shot. Sonya kissing Johnny is a tad out of nowhere now without him saving her from Baraka, but her already showing she cares about Johnny in the Devourer scenes is set up enough for this edit. Yes, the ninjas can just be seen in the distance in the closing shot, but bugger off, I can't fix everything. I did try to get the Elder Gods showing up to congratulate Liu Kang in there to close things out, but they jump into the One Being discussion so quickly that it really would have felt even more abrupt for them to show up, say good job, and then the film ends, so I left them out. The final edit comes at the end of the credits. Instead of the WB logo, we get this.
You've arrived.
I think using part of Scorpion's reintroduction as a post-credit stinger to set up the hypothetical MK Legends Fire and Ice is a good way to both give Scorpion some play in this edit and restore some of that trimmed runtime.
And finally, the realms will be no more.
And that is my MK2-centric re-edit of Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms. It was a fun project to try out, even if the full fruits of my labour can't legally be shared. Maybe I could edit an older MK TV show to make a movie or something, since I don't think WB gives a shit about those being uploaded anywhere. Either way, if you want to give this project a go, follow my explanation here to guide you in your own re-edit for personal use. Just make sure you actually own the movie legally, like I do. Overall, while an improvement on the original that lacks the clutter and doesn't make Scorpion the centre of the universe, it can't truly fix the film. The ending is a little abrupt with no epilogue to close things out, most of the fights are still just montages that lack any weight or significance, Johnny Cage still has dialogue, and the undercooked relationships between the cast still weaken the drama of some of the deaths. Battle of the Realms needed a complete rewrite back in pre-production to re-evaluate the screen time being eaten by the B-plot and climax in order to produce an actually good film, but I think this re-edit helps by removing the biggest problem the film faces and makes it so there's less of it to struggle through, which is always a plus. And no, I won't be re-editing the other 2021 MK movie because that would just be a supercut of Kano's best lines, which, while fun to watch, wouldn't be all that satisfying to make. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms Debate, featuring True Underdog Gaming, Brush Poet, The Fourth Snake, by Sonic RxD. Do you really need me to explain why?